Greetings, Unsettled Souls, and welcome to The Correct Views. Sam I.B. Gangi reporting for the Media Speaks, and we are going straight into this Ebola update. I do want to let you know two things. First of all, the entire show is not Ebola related. You're going to want to hang around for one of the dumdies of the day at the end. Second of all, what have we had this month? If the Ebola, bleeding out the eyes, which I'm about to be reporting on. If ISIS beheading 700 people, you've got murders in Canada being blamed on everyone. If you need a break, but you still want the news, on Halloween, I will be pre-recording the show. I am uploading an entire video that I will be doing in different imaginary characters that all work for the correct views. Why? Because I love acting and I never get to do it. Those of you that watch the show here, it's pretty much me. You either love me or hate me. This is who I am. I don't hide it. So if you need a break and you want some different things, then make sure you're here on Halloween night, because I'm going to be uploading a video. All of the news is going to be real, but it's got to be a little more lighthearted than this. Why? Because this Ebola update is not good. This is not good at all. We're doing an entire Ebola update the day before Halloween, and this is not lighthearted in any way, shape, matter, or form. Christina Sarich, Prison Planet. Insurance companies begin writing Ebola exclusions into policies. It started with, if you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. Yeah, if you want to spend 3 times as much for it. I'm 41. I have never had insurance in my entire adult life. My dad had OCHIP when he worked at Timken Mercy. Nobody outside of Canton knows what I'm talking about. But OCHIP is at least it was, a very good health insurance plan to have with where you worked, especially if you worked in a hospital. Well, we had it growing up. When I turned 19, I had no insurance, none whatsoever. And then I finally got insurance about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, when I finally became something other than absolutely poor. Obama has cost me that insurance. Regular viewers know firsthand, when I had vertigo, I was able to cover my premiums, I was able to cover my deductible, and I was okay. Now I have absolutely no insurance, because Obama has made it so that my insurance plan went through the roof. So when you read these stories from people and hear about them, they are not fake, they are true. I am one of the people that it happened to. Well, now, do you remember the promise that Obama gave us about pre-existing conditions? If you've got pre-existing conditions, we're going to cover you. Isn't your insurance supposed to be there when you need it the most? When you get vertigo and you can't stand up, like happened to me. Thank God it never came back. When you got cancer. How about when you get Ebola? Do you think maybe you might want your insurance plans to step up to the plate just a little bit then? Remember the promise of universal health care with Obamacare, with no refusal for pre-existing conditions. It looks like your insurance company may not have to cover you if you get Ebola. U.S. and British insurance companies have begun writing Ebola exclusions into standard policies to cover hospitals, event organizers, and other businesses vulnerable to local disruptions. What is this? How in the world is anybody okay with this? I don't care if you're a libertarian like I am. I don't care if you're watching this video and you think, I hate this guy. Good. Do me a favor. Make better videos than I do and put them up there. You agree with me on this. I don't care what side of the political aisle you are on. You agree with me with this, don't you? How is this okay with anybody? While it is estimated that expenditures to treat the original Dallas Ebola patient, Thomas Eric Duncan, were approximately $100,000 per hour, though he passed away, it looks like insurance companies won't be footing the bill. Obama is the one who is this great insurance expert, right? That's why he's in charge of our insurance now. He knew exactly what we needed. He's the one who has left the borders open for Duncan to come in. Now it is his health care plan that is going to make it impossible for you to get covered if you get it when he allowed it to get in. What a great president. Obama originally refused to set up travel restrictions in West Africa. I just mentioned that. No sense in reading that. Gary Flynn, an event cancellation broker at Jordan Lynn Thompson Group PLC in London, said what underwriters are doing at the moment is they're generally providing quotes either excluding or including Ebola, and it's much more expensive if Ebola is included. Now, am I one of these people that think that Ebola was created? No. Why? Because I know a little bit about history. I know that it's very likely that Ebola is what wiped out ancient Greece. That means Athens. That means it was not man-made. However, I would not be the least bit surprised if man and governments have altered it to make it more deadly. In any event, there's a lot of money to be made off of it. Am I saying that they wanted it to get loose, wanted it to get out? I've heard both sides of it. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not going to come on here and risk my credibility by saying that that's what it is. But I am going to go on record for saying that they are using this no matter what. Whether they wanted it on purpose, they're using this. This is a mess. Again, the vaccine comes out. What are you going to do? If they allow an Ebola outbreak to go crazy in the country, then you're going to want the vaccine, even if the vaccine has toxins in it. But you would have never taken it if they hadn't allowed the disaster to enter the country. So you can see how they can talk people into getting vaccines when they don't want to. Again, did they plan it? No, but it's clearly being used if they didn't. That's just like sinful. That's vile to even read. You can't even believe that's true. This is the Ebola story doesn't smell right. The only intelligent and responsible policy is to stop all commercial flights to... I hate when pages refresh. I want to read her tagline right. Flights to all Ebola areas. Friends, this is Paul Craig Roberts from InfoWars, and this is plain logic here. Again, it has nothing to do with which side of the political aisle you're on. You could be a raging communist and be listening to this right now and going, you know what, that guy in the black shirt has a point. Because this isn't political. This is just common sense. You want to live your life. You don't want boneheaded policies to prevent it. The federal government has announced that thousands of additional U.S. soldiers are being sent to Liberia. General Gary Valesky said the troops would stamp out Ebola. Now again, I have said repeatedly, I am in favor of setting up hospitals, MASH units, things that people would volunteer to do. And I think that if you work in the military in a medical environment and you've been trained to deal with things like malaria, cholera, Ebola, then you being sent there isn't necessarily a bad idea. In my opinion, feel free to disagree. I understand why you disagree, and I get your point. That's not what's happening here. They are sending people that have no more idea what the hell they're doing over there than I do. And I have no business being there. That's why I'm not trying to go. Why? Because I'm not going to help anybody. All I'm going to do is sicken people. If you don't know what you're doing, you make it worse. It says the official story is that combat troops are being sent to build treatment structures in those affected with Ebola. Combat troops. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That is why people are wondering if maybe Obama isn't trying to spread this. You know, and there's a million conspiracies. Why? The Georgia Guidestones, the eugenics, blah, blah. Whatever your favorite theory is, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying, man, it gives credence to what you're saying because it looks like this is being purposefully done. These people are getting mere hours of training and they're sending combat troops in. I'm in favor of aid from people that want to go and people that know what they're doing. Not sending in somebody that was trained to fight in a medical environment that they have no idea what they're doing in. Why combat troops, it says? Why not send a construction outfit, such as an engineer battalion, if it has to be the military? Why not do what the government usually does and contract with a construction company to build the treatment units? Additional thousands of troops results in very large, inexperienced construction crews for 17 treatment units, and it doesn't make any sense. Stories that don't make sense and are not explained naturally arouse suspicions such as, are the U.S. soldiers being used to test Ebola vaccines and cures? It mentions that there have, again, I'm not saying it is, but I'm letting you know why they're asking the question, so don't zone out, just hear me out. It says, uninformed and gullible Americans would respond that the government would never do that to its own soldiers and citizens by using them as guinea pigs before making a fool of yourself, it says. Take a moment to recall that many experiments in U.S. government was conducted on American soldiers and citizens. For example, search this online. It says the unethical human experimentation in the United States or human radiation experiments, and you will find that the federal agencies such as the Department of Defense and Energy Commission have exposed U.S. soldiers and prisoners to high levels of radiation, irradiating the testicles, that is, the cojones, of males, and tested for birth defects, and they find that there was a very high rate resulted. Irradiated the heads of children, fed radioactive material to mentally retarded children. How bad is that for you? Go look up Silkwood, the movie. Watch it. It's a true story. Look up radioactive disaster Brazil. Look what high radioactivity does to a community. It's a true story. They were irradiating the balls of men and testing what happened when they had kids. This is all fact. Are they doing it with Ebola? I'm not going to say that they are, but it certainly doesn't smell right, to quote the first story, wouldn't you say? This is a short one. You can get Ebola from a toilet seat. At first, I was not going to report on this at all, and then I looked it up because, again, if I have my credibility ruined, I have nothing. This actually holds up. The New York Times admits it. You can end up infected with the Ebola virus if you use a bathroom used by an Ebola patient. In general, the disease risk of toilet seats is overrated, but you probably can get Ebola from a toilet seat. But the risk is not so much the seat as it is the whole bathroom itself. Not just any bathroom. The risk would come mostly from the bathroom that an Ebola victim with an infectious disease phase has recently used. The field hospitals run by Doctors Without Borders in Africa are laid out so that patients who definitely have Ebola never share toilet facilities with staff members or with patients who are only possible cases. Dr. Donald McNeil Jr., writing for the newspaper, says modern toilets are especially dangerous, and this is why I left it in the report. Listen to this. In modern buildings, toilets that flush loudly and powerfully are a risk in and of themselves. The flushing creates a mist of droplets that splash onto the face and hands and may contaminate other surfaces, like splash up, hit the toilet paper dispenser, and then you touch a bit of the water. And it said, should we expect a CDC bulletin on this? So it's not that you're going to sit down and it's going to jump through your butt cheeks and get you sick. But because of the way it was laid out, I felt that needed to be mentioned. One more on this of Washington's blog. CDC says Ebola droplets can only travel 3 feet. But MIT research shows that sneezes can travel up to 20 feet. Remember Obama saying that you couldn't catch it on a bus? Yeah, because, nobody ever sneezes on a bus. Friends, listen to this. This week, the Centers for Disease Control, and notice it never says prevention anymore, admitted that Ebola can travel through the air in aerosols. That means making it airborne. But claims that it can go no more than 3 feet. Well, let's check the math. CDC and the World Health Organization, as a link to prove it, admit that Ebola can be spread through sneezing and coughing. Think the flu. But the CDC itself admits that flu droplets can travel 6 feet. Mythbusters demonstrated that sneezes can nail people 17 feet away. But engineers at MIT, that's quite a source, show that sneezes can actually travel 200 times further than previously thought, up to 20 feet. How? Gas clouds. The study, again, it's MIT, before you zone out and question me on this all night long. The study changes our current ideas of how far germs can spread in aerosols such as coughs or sneezes. Mary B. Farone, Ph.D., Associate Professor of Biology at Middle Tennessee State University, told Weather.com. We used to think if you could see the spray, that was the limit of the decimation. But this study shows that tiny particles such as bacteria and viruses can spread much further on gas clouds. MIT explains. A novel study by MIT researchers shows that coughs and sneezes have associated gas clouds that keep their potentially infectious droplets aloof over much greater distances than previously realized. What's that mean? It means that all those studies that you've been hearing about sneezes and coughs in regards to the 90s outbreak of Ebola, or the 70s or 80s outbreak of Ebola, is not currently applicable because we now know things that we didn't know then. When you cough or sneeze, you see the droplets that goes on or feel them if someone sneezes on you, says John Bush, a professor of applied mathematics at MIT and co-author of the new paper on the subject. But you don't need to see the cloud, the invisible gas phase. The influence of this gas cloud is to extend the range of the individual droplets, particularly the small ones. Indeed, the study finds the smaller droplets that emerge in a cough or sneeze may travel 5 to 200 times further than they would if those droplets simply moved as groups of unconnected particles, which is what previous estimates had assumed. So don't listen to the old studies on Ebola. The tendency of these droplets to stay airborne resuspended by gas clouds, means that ventilation systems may be more prone to transmitting potentially infectious particles than had been suspected. The study finds that droplets 100 micrometers or millionths of a meter in diameter travel 5 times further than previously estimated, while droplets 10 micrometers in diameter travel 200 times further. Droplets less than 50 micrometers in size can frequently remain airborne long enough to reach ceiling ventilation units. Doesn't that make you feel great at the airport or in the plane? Friends, you're listening to The Correct Views. Sam IB, reporting for the Media Speaks. There are 2 more stories to get to, the dumdies of the day, and you don't want to miss them because they're really dumb, so don't zone out. I just want to let you know it is the last weekend of Cedar Point. They do not open again until May because we live in Ohio, the land of ice and snow. If you can even get a room this late in the season of Halloween, to go to Halloween weekends at Cedar Point, to go see Ghostly Manor, rated one of the best haunted houses in America, you're going to spend a fortune. It's going to be $150, $200 a night at the Breakers. It's going to be $80 or $100 at every other place, unless you go to the Seacrest Motel. Call Vicky, call her now, and let her know that you heard about it on The Correct Views, TCV. Tell her Sam sent you. You're going to get a deal that is going to wipe the board with the price of everybody else in Sandusky. Go up there. It's awesome. Make sure you ride the top thrill dragster. Friend, two more stories to go. The dumdy of the day. There's 2 dumdies of the day. A CNN reporter returning from Liberia was horrified by lack of airport Ebola screening. Mikhail Phelan, I expected that they were going to take my temperature and ask me lots of questions, but they didn't. Now keep in mind, this happened before the newest outbreak in New York. This was dated October 6th. The CNN reporter returning from Liberia says that she was shocked by the complete lack of screening at all at the Atlantic airport. Speaking with HLN's Robin Meade, CNN senior medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen revealed the horrifying incident in detail. I expected that they were going to take my temperature, which they are now doing. That they were going to ask me lots of questions, but they didn't, Cohen said. Troubled by the lack of questioning, Cohen revealed her role as a journalist covering the Ebola outbreak, assuming that an enhanced screening would then take place. She said where she was from and what she was doing, but they said they got an email about it, didn't know much about it, and went and conferred with someone else that didn't know, and said, what am I watching for? And they couldn't tell me. The same thing happened to the person that was traveling with them. The only thing that we've changed since then is we're now taking their temperature. It's one of the dumdies of the day. And for those of you that are tired of Ebola, we got a dumdie for you too. The Dunce Cap of the Month Award, by the way, for those that do not know, go out once a month. It's almost the first, or it's usually done within the first 7 to 10 days of the month. We mail out the Dunce Cap of the Month Award. And the ones that, it's a whole show full of dumdies. And then the ones that don't make it get into the dumdie of the day. I got 2 minutes? 11 minutes. All right, to close, I got lots of time. It ain't going to take that long. You might as well just stay here. Introducing car condos, baby boomers embark on one last misallocation of capital binge by purchasing $600,000 garages. How many of you remembered the other dumdy of the day I did when we had the, I think it was last month on the Dunce Cap of the Month Award that we covered the $1 million parking places? Remember the poor door? All right, listen, the most significant challenge of our times relates to the ongoing theft of society's wealth across the board by a very small group of people known as oligarchs and the super rich or the overclass, etc. Whatever you want to call them, it says this group is hell-bent on using political cronyism in faux democracies across the globe to aggregate all of the world's wealth and power, while concurrently implementing an Orwellian surveillance state. In other words, they want to take your rights away and put all the money to themselves. Says the above-mentioned clash between the oligarchs and the demoralized, that would be you and I, and confused citizenry, thankfully not us, will be the defining battle of our time. So why does all this matter? Because there are people that are buying parking garages. It says Bloomberg reports this. Eric Murphy's 4,500 square foot pad has a $900 bottle of wine cellar, gourmet kitchen, red Ferrari 430 parked by the sofa. This isn't your average man cave. It's a car condo at Adel Marks Plex. 40 acres, 6 hectares for you in Europe, of garages overlooking a wetland outside Minneapolis. Here boomers hang out with their cars, watch sports on TV, and commune with fellow auto enthusiasts. In other words, there's people lining up to build a man cave for $600,000 so that they can have their car by their sofa. Meanwhile, you have hospitals begging for money. Now, did I just talk about going to Kings Island, Cedar Point? All over the place. But at some point, you have to draw the line and just say that something is too expensive. You know what? If I had $1 million, I'd make sure I stayed at a really nice hotel with Crastel on one night, and I might get one of the $600 rooms, get a bottle of champagne, and live it up. The following week, I'd probably still go to the Seacrest Motel. Because when you're traveling, you really don't see your motel. My point being, some people have so much money that they're simply throwing it away and spending it on the dumbest things. And that is why they win the dumdy of the day. Friends, good night. God bless. Make sure you donate to the show. You can do so at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Every penny you give to me goes towards a better show. It's brought to you in part by Mike McLaughlin, who you can find on Facebook.com, one of the best fiction and nonfiction writers of poetry extant today. And last but not least, friends, make sure, beyond all else, that you are here Halloween night. I've got something crazy planned. It's real news, I promise. Good night, friends. God bless.